Mandalorian Season 3, the good, the bad, the ugly. Let's start with the ugly. Okay, the ugly. The most, spoiler here. If you haven't seen it, this might not make sense to you, but at the end, when the officer from Moff Gideon's ship is left alone in the control room where the cloning doctor was getting re-educated, she's left alone in that room. Now, I can't think of any medical establishment, at least in this country, that would allow you to be alone in a room that controls a medical device. Nowhere am I aware that allows a non-medically trained person who has nothing to do with this hospital to be in the room where the X-ray button gets pushed. They might be able to stand at the doorway, but they're not ever left alone in that room. And when radiotherapy happens, I'm not aware of any hospital in the country that will allow a non-radiotherapist or trainee therapist in that room that's controlling the radiotherapy machine. While the machine is being run, of course, is what I'm talking about. I'm not aware of any room, any hospital that would even allow that, let alone be alone in that room while the machine is running. That seemed the most dumbassest thing in the whole show. Okay. My first thought on that whole situation was the book 1984, where, I'm sorry, but he got set up in the book 1984. He got set up, then he had to go to re-education in room 101. And in this, the cloning doctor got set up and had to be re-educated in whatever that room. Now, of course, if you've seen it, I'm sure everybody's aware on where he's basically said, no, it's a trap. And the image flashes to a Mon Calamari doctor standing there. I'm sure everybody was aware of the subtle nuances of him saying it's a trap and then seeing that species. Got a little bit of a chuckle out of that. So well done to the editor and or whoever thought of that as a good idea. That was a good little chuckle. I didn't understand the purpose of the engineer doctor giving a speech to a whole auditorium of people, considering he's not allowed to do anything and he's just going to be a lowly worker entering data in. That didn't make any sense. Now, also, we'll come back. I think we'll be done with that, except to say that was over half the episode. That little side arc was over half the episode, which tells me that has to be playing a part, a major setup part later on, because you wouldn't devote half an episode in The Mandalorian to something that had nothing to do with The Mandalorian. Okay, now on to Mando himself. When Bo rescued him out of the water last episode, that was it. But this episode, as she just sat there, and Grogu went up to him, and then they're walking back, and they're getting to the ship, and she's in the ship. And the whole time I'm thinking, she hasn't taken her helmet off. She has not taken her helmet off. Is she contemplative now? She knows the law. Is after seeing the mythosaur in the water, has she thought, hang on, I'm just going to keep my helmet on because, you know, the mythology behind the whole thing? Don't know, but it stood out to me that she wasn't taking it off, because every other thing, she does some action sequence and she takes her helmet off. She does something else, she takes her helmet off. But in this time, she absolutely did not take her helmet off at all. So I thought that was very interesting. Also, Mando saying that the TIE fighters might have been stolen from some lord, pirate, like what the hell ever. Believable. But then we saw the inside of the TIE fighter and we saw who was operating it. And it's certainly not a stolen TIE fighter. So is that leftover ships loyal to Moff Gideon still slowly hunting down, looking? Don't know. We'll have to wait and see. And remember, we still have the subplot of IG's memory chip to go by. Overall, I thoroughly enjoyed the episode. I thought it was a little bit of a sidetrack episode, but to keep it in line with The Mandalorian, they tacked on Mando at the start and the end. But really, the episode could have just had that scene and then cut to the doctor's scene. But I think that was, that was okay done that way, because it was like, well, the doctor's scene happened while they were traveling through hyperspace. So that's how we take it. Otherwise, I enjoyed the episode. But let me know what you think in the comments below.